Okay, I'd like to talk today about the evolution of Scrum because it started back in 1983, and that prototype was for an entire organization. And we've done Scrum now for many years with teams, and particularly in software, but now it's coming to a point where we now can go back to the original concept and take an entire organization and increase the value of delivery, increase the profitability, drive the stock price of an entire organization. The people at Intel came to me, and at Intel they have many divisions using Scrum. One division has 500 teams, and they have data showing they're running 18 times faster. And they tell me that, Jeff, you need to write down how we do this. Because there are many scaling frameworks out there, and they will not make Intel run 18 times faster. So you need to write down how this actually works. And so it's in the Scrum at Scale guide. Scrum at Scale is a meta framework. It discusses what are the components of the organization that have to function to make this really work. And one of the things we absolutely need, and some of our speakers will be talking about this later, is what we call an executive action team, a leadership team that's going to set up an agile environment that will support the teams. And within that, the Scrum Master organization needs to have teams that are constantly improving, coordinate across teams, be able to deploy new features. Similarly, on the product owner side, we need a leadership team where the chief product owner and his key people meet regularly with the stakeholders in the company, where they decide how to prioritize everything. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, how important that is. How the organization should allocate money, people to products, where we're going to focus. And then the product owner organization needs to have a vision that translates into backlog, that flows into teams. And there's release plans that deploy that product. And getting the pieces of all this running, particularly the leadership pieces, are critical to a Scrum at Scale implementation. Most companies today, particularly our venture companies, all of them have software developers all over the world. If they're software or if they're outside of software, it's the same thing. And in order to really scale Scrum well, we need to saturate the organization with Scrum. So moving Scrum across the organization. Like some of our companies, one will speak today, we have HR teams that are running as Scrum teams. Why is that important? Because HR has to change job descriptions. They have to change incentives. They have to change space. They have to change the way performance appraisals are done. Everything has to change. And if HR is running as a Scrum, they know a lot better how to do the job that needs to be done. Okay. The major reason why the Standish Group that collects huge amounts of data on projects thinks that Scrum works is actually speed of decision. So that organization needs to be scaled in a way that decisions happen really fast. So in organizations where the decision time is less than an hour on average, the success rate is 58% for projects. If the average decision time takes more than 5 hours, the success rate drops to 18%. That difference, 58% versus 18%, is bigger than the difference between Agile and Waterfall. This decision time is the driver for performance. And in Scrum, we want to push as many decisions as possible down to the team level. They can make a decision in 10 minutes. If there are prioritization decisions, the product owner wants to be working closely with the team, available right away, and should be able to turn around a decision on any priorities within the hour. And if the leadership team is meeting every day, they can take major issues and resolve them in a few hours, driving the average decision time in the organization down to less than an hour. Many people try to do an Agile transformation They have waterfall leadership that wants the waterfall plans, the waterfall reports. They want to micromanage the operation. And to do the translation between the Agile and the waterfall, they created a layer, a translation layer called some scaling framework. And so it's like trying to run a Mac application on a Windows machine. How does that work? It doesn't, right? At least on the Mac you can run Windows, but running Mac on Windows, it doesn't. Okay? So this is guaranteed to fail in the long run. So what is needed is to implement a product owner leadership organization, and they are driving the backlog, and the teams are organizing around delivering what the product owners want. And the managers are now supporting that and creating the environment where that's possible. And that's happened in Microsoft. It's happened in Salesforce. It's happened in Apple, SAP, and Amazon. We get asked to come in to do one of the many transformations that Ken and I have done over the years to Pegasystems, a publicly traded company. And we said we're going to start small. We want to build a reference model. I will only bring in 4 coaches. We will work with 6 teams, and we'll boot them up and getting them working well. The company had hundreds of people in the United States and even more people in India. So these 6 teams were just really small piece of the company. But the CEO was a person like Steve Jobs, a great visionary who had tremendous support for the people. And so as soon as he said we're going to do Scrum, and we started to build the model, the whole organization spontaneously erupted. And we started in July, and by September 2nd, every person globally was doing Scrum. It's the fastest transformation I've ever seen. While we're implementing the Scrum, in less than a year period as we're implementing this, the stock price goes up 400%. And what that really taught me is that the investors are looking really closely at companies. And they would know when I would visit the company, the stock would not go up the day that I arrived. It would go up the next day. Because the investors somehow knew what the executives had decided based on what I told them. And they knew they decided to do what I said. And then the stock price would go up 10%. And that happened. Every month I was there, it would happen like clockwork. So your investors are watching you. And if you decide to do this, they're going to be looking to invest. But they're going to do their research and figure out if your managers are actually going to get agile. And as soon as they realize they are, the stock price will start up. And as soon as they realize the management is slacking off, it'll start to go down. It's unbelievably accurate. Some years later, they had me come in and work with the product owners back around 2016, and the stock price immediately went up 400% again, okay? So product ownership is really critical.